Hello there. Today's lesson we are talking about branch lines and extra lines, drooping lines or rising lines that come away from the main lines on the palms. These are the lines that can be confusing. Most of the times they don't have much relevance at all, but I'm going to show you the difference between some of them. I'm going to be drawing on this picture here, and first of all, I will put down the main lines for us, shall I? That is normally where the heart line is. It's normally where the headline is. And the lifeline. So when we talk about branching lines, they would be a short piece of line that branches off the main line. For instance, a branch line over here coming off the lifeline is usually attached to the lifeline and then either finishes nowhere or it finishes at the fate line, which is here. If it simply branches out, that's usually a sign of travel or a need to travel. If it specifically, the branch line goes towards the moon, that's nearly always a travel line. If the branch line is on a headline, for instance, coming up like that, that would be an indicator of a time when the person has achieved something, an ambition or goal that has been reached. It's the same as if the branch line is a rising one from the lifeline. Branches from the heart line can go down or they can go up, and we shall talk about those in a minute. So if a branch line reaches towards a mount, for instance, onto the Jupiter mount, that is a sympathy line. If it comes this way, it is an ambition line. So Jupiter is usually to do with ambition and goals and such. So that represents ambition. And these lines that come across here are sympathy lines, not to be mistaken for the Ring of Solomon, which goes around the Jupiter finger. Now, if these rising lines, branch lines, branch all the way to the Saturn finger, they're called trauma lines. And that can be from a time when the person may have experienced something very upsetting and has left a mark on the hand. Get up a clean picture. We'll put the heart line, headline and the lifeline there again. And actually we'll put the fate line there as well. That's the most common lines anyway. Okay, so drooping lines can be mistaken for rising lines. A rising line usually rises to the line. Rising lines to the fate line, rising lines towards the headline, whereas drooping lines are quite evident. It is like a branch that just seems to hang there. So a drooping line off a heart line would show periods that upset the person emotionally. So because it's going downwards, it's showing a downward in the emotion. On a lifeline, these drooping lines, they're just usually quite short branches. They also show periods of an upsetting nature. And because it's on a lifeline, it can mean a loss. It can mean a loss of someone the person cares about. It can be loss of physical property. There can be a number of reasons for this drooping line. Off the headline, a drooping line would show a period of mental weakness or a period that stressed the person. Usually, if that's the case, there will be like an island formation on the headline as well. Now we're talking about the rising lines, and they nearly always have a positive connotation, unlike those drooping lines, which just seem so negative. I'm just putting in the lifeline, the headline and heart line here. So the positive markings of rising lines on a heart line, for instance, can show a happy period such as getting married, emotional times that make the person feel positive, or that they've achieved something of an emotional nature. Sometimes these rising lines can point to the kind of person that they're attracted to. For instance, rising to Saturn, they might be attracted to someone in a uniform. To the Mount of Apollo, they might be attracted to creative people, such as musicians. And to Mercury, like a business person. So these rising lines, depending on where they are, for instance, on the headline, already said that before, that can show a time of achievement of something. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. Sometimes they lean this way, sometimes they go backwards. Rising lines on the lifeline is the same. That shows a period where something exciting happened. For instance, they may have purchased their first home and it was a great achievement to do that. So all positive occurrences will be rising lines. Now, I forgot to mention before with the drooping line, if it's drooping on the outside, that's the travel line. It's only if it's drooping on the inside when it is a loss. And sometimes on the headline, it can be a rising line at the end, and that shows somebody who has good business skills. If the headline seems to have a branch down, that's more like a fork. That's called a writer's fork. That shows someone who has the ability to be creative and practical, such as being able to write. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that little lesson, and we shall talk about some more of that later on.